Hello and welcome to What Culture Horror with myself, Andrew Pollard. I hope you're good, I hope you're well, and I really do hope your week is going as well as possible. Now today we are here with another review, this time for The Conjuring Last Rites, now in cinemas worldwide, and supposedly the final chapter in the wider Conjuring universe. Though yeah, we will see about that. I mean, how many times have horror fans been told that this one is really it? This is the last film, there's definitely no more after this, we're done ski. Only for a whole bunch of sequels, prequels, requels, remakes, reboots, spin-offs, whatever to all follow. I mean, here's looking at you, Friday the 13th, the final chapter, which despite being totally the end of Jason Voorhees and the end of the franchise, yeah, that was followed by another 6 movies, then a crossover with Elm Street, and then a 2009 reboot, plus the Crystal Lake TV series that's currently in development, and I am really looking forward to that, so hey, no judgment here. But am I skeptical about The Conjuring Last Rites really being it for The Conjuring? Absolutely. Still, more importantly right now though, is Last Rites actually any good? Let's get to it and have a look. I guess we probably should start things off by going back a little, just to say that I am a huge fan of the first Conjuring movie, genuinely. One of my favourite horrors of the past 15 years or more. And it's absolutely insane to realise that it's now, 12 years since that first release. We're getting old, man. That was back in 2013. So I'm a massive fan of that movie. I've rewatched it countless times over the years. Then there's The Conjuring 2, the Enfield case, something that makes young me remember Ghostwatch live back in the day, because hey, I'm old. But The Conjuring 2 was good. I liked it. Not as much as the first film, but it was solid. The Conjuring, the Devil Made Me Do It. Nah, that one definitely did not do it for me. Not a fan of that film. I just say this basically just to get an idea of what my general thoughts are on the main Conjuring movies ahead of this 4th and supposedly final one. Although this is the 9th Conjuring universe movie with those spin-offs varying from absolutely awful to decent enough. I mean, Annabelle Creation is likely the best of the bunch, I'd say, though I am one of those people in the vast minority where, you know what, I actually enjoyed the first Nun movie, so yeah. But The Conjuring Last Rites. Here we start things off back in 1964 with the younger Ed and Lorraine Warren, as nicely played by Orion Smith and Madison Lawler, who both do a really good job of capturing the mannerisms and cadences of Ed and Lorraine, or I guess of Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga. So, 1964, the Warrens are investigating a case while Lorraine is pregnant. A case that involves a spooky mirror. And you have the mirror cracks, Lorraine has a sinister vision which sends her into labour, and the Warrens, they rush to hospital where they undergo safe to say, an incredibly traumatic childbirth. And with that, we jump ahead 22 years to 1986, where that child is, of course, Judy Warren, as we've seen in the other Conjuring movies. But this time, she's played by Mia Tomlinson, who you may have seen in Netflix's The Lost Pirate Kingdom. We're at a point here in the Warrens' life where I guess it's fair to say there's a lot of change that's going on. First up, there isn't all that much interest in the Warrens and their cases. The pair now, they basically retired due to Ed's struggling heart conditions. And even when they run seminars about their paranormal investigation work, the few people that do attend them are more interested in asking questions about, like, Ghostbusters. I ain't afraid of no ghost. Busting makes me feel good. But yeah, that came out obviously in 1984, which is 2 years before the main events of Last Rites. This is a time when the world has largely left the Warrens behind. That's not to say that Lorraine Warren doesn't still have her powers, seeing things, feeling things. And likewise, by this point, Judy Warren is also starting to develop her own powers. Sinister visions, the eerie hallucinations, ominous tension around so many corners. But that's not just it as well, for Judy also has a boyfriend here. That'd be Tony, as played by Ben Hardy, who's his resume, his credits are certainly varied. I mean, to some people, he'll be best known forever as Peter Beale in EastEnders. To others, he'll be Archangel from X-Men Apocalypse. To some, he'll be Roger Taylor in Bohemian Rhapsody. And to others, they might know him from the steamy thriller The Voyeurs. But here he is Tony, who's been dating Judy Warren for 6 months by this point in time, and who's still a little bit nervous around the Warrens. I mean, Lorraine is kind and welcoming. Ed is trying to be nice, but is a little more gruff and standoffish. And you know, there is the whole, like, supernatural shenanigans that goes hand in hand with the Warrens, as contained in their little room where they keep all of their artifacts and items from the various cases from over the decades. I mean, we've all been there. It's one thing to meet your new partner's parents for the first few times, but it's, you know, something else when you attend one of their birthday parties, which would be Ed's birthday party here, and you get a glimpse of all of the evil that's boxed away alongside, you know, Annabelle and the like. It's a little bit different. It's a little bit heavy. So that's where things are with the Warrens. But what else is going on in the Conjuring Last Rites? Well, we've got the Smurl family who've just moved into a house in Pennsylvania. There's Jack and Janet, there's their 4 daughters, there's Jack's elderly parents, and there's a doggo. Good doggo, the best doggo. Much like the other families seen in the rest of the Conjuring movies, of course, the Smurls soon start to have their own supernatural problems. And wouldn't you know it, but these fully start when one of the Smurl girls, that'd be Heather, receives a gift for her confirmation. That gift, why, it is the one and the same mirror we saw in 1964. The mirror that gave Lorraine Warren all the bad vibes and brought on her childbirth, her labour. Before you know it, the Smurls are in kind of, all kinds of trouble. Judy Warren is getting more and more sinister visions, and Lorraine Warren, as she says a lot during this film, this time it feels different. Righto, so that is the basic spoiler-free plot of Last Rites. This the film, is it a fitting send-off, or does The Conjuring go out with a whimper, I guess, is the bigger question. For me, it's a little bit of both, to be honest. Like the previous Conjuring movies, Last Rites shines brightest in its more quiet, poignant moments. This is a film that's more about the Warrens, their dynamic, their changing place in the world, rather than balls to the wall scares. And as Ed and Lorraine Warren, Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga, they just slip back into these characters like they are a second skin by this point in time. Seriously, for all the good and the bad of the wider Conjuring world so far, Wilson and Farmiga's performances as the Warrens have been some of the best in modern horror, and that's no different this time out, of course. Likewise, Mia Tomlinson and Ben Hardy, they bring a whole bunch to the table as Judy and Tony, with Tony acting as I guess kind of a nice in for us into the crazy world of the Warrens. I mean, it's a world that we've seen before, but it's just fun to see someone else try to integrate themselves into that certainly unique world. And Mia Tomlinson, she puts in a powerhouse performance here as Judy Warren, who the character has, I guess, somewhat of a spiritual awakening, a supernatural awakening. I don't know what the term is for it, but yeah, she's great in showing the various emotions Judy is going through. She struggles with her new abilities and, yes, the darkness that those abilities bring with them. I mean, it's like, oh, right, I can see things, and then you realize, like, oh, the things I can see, they're not very nice. So is The Conjuring Last Rites maybe a little too similar to the original movie and to The Conjuring 2, I guess? But at times, yes, it is. It can feel a little been here, done that, as in there's a family home tormented by something. The Warrens are called in to attempt to save the day. Lather, rinse, repeat. I mean, it is a little too familiar, I guess. And also the Smurl family, to center on them, well, they don't really get all that much screen time. Certainly way less than, say, the Perrons of the original movie. And like the Perrons, and like other elements of the other Conjuring films, the Smurl family were and are a very real family who experienced an alleged haunting over many years. Their story's already been told in a couple of books and a 1991 TV movie. But the Smurls here, they very, very much feel like background players. I mean, don't get it wrong. First and foremost, the Conjuring movies, the main Conjuring movies, rightly have the Warrens as the star attractions. But Last Rites doesn't quite balance the Smurl screen time as well as the first film did with the Perrons, or the second film did with the Hodgsons. And to be honest, The Conjuring Last Rites, which does have plenty of bright spots, it's way too long. It drags at times, clocking in at, I think it's 2 hours, 15 minutes by the time all's said and done with the credits, which makes it the longest runtime of the entire franchise. And there's nothing necessarily wrong with a longer runtime, but that's only if it feels needed and justified. Here, it doesn't really, particularly with how Last Rites decides to play out the Smurl story, which kind of just simmers away, not doing much, not much screen time, and then the characters are barely seen for the first hour or so, and then it just goes from 0 to 100. And if you're going to do that with that element of the story, then do you really need all that extra, the runtime? Or could you have used that runtime better to explore the Smurls a bit more? Yes, you could. I mean, if you're going to run use that runtime to spend more time with the Smurls, you can get away with that, but that wasn't the case, unfortunately. Saying that, though, the time spent with the Warrens is great. It's heartfelt, it's poignant, it's anchored brilliantly, as ever, as mentioned by Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga. And Last Rites has moments that are well crafted. There are scares that feel well earned, and there's a classic Conjuring score, this time from Benjamin Wallfish. But the ending, the finale is certainly something that will. I reckon that one will split opinion. I reckon by the time all's said and done there. I mean, again, as a wider IP, the Conjuring world so often shines with smart camera work, practical effects, slow burn, tension, restraint. Restraint is a big word there. Not excess CGI and elaborate daftness, which was part of the problem for me with The Devil Made Me Do It, the third movie. But Last Rites, it certainly throws a whole lot against the wall with its finale, is all I will say there. And that might land for some people. It didn't really land for me. Still, as a fairly strong fan of the franchise, despite its wobbles over the years, Last Rites, it does tick plenty of the right boxes for me anyway. Sure, some of them might have felt a little bit ham-fisted, but there are plenty of nice nods and winks to the previous movies here. Some nice callbacks, some familiar faces, shall we say? So that was nice to see. I enjoyed that a lot. Again, it's some of it's a little bit forced, but if this is a finale to a 9-movie franchise, then I can let that slide a little bit. And they were characters and they were callbacks that I was happy to see. Now, as a send-off for The Conjuring, for the Warrens, if this is it, Last Rite, it again proves that regardless of what's going on around him, Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga have been the beating heart of these movies, the shining lights, the soul that's kept it all together across the 4 Conjuring films. And I guess was such a pivotal part as well in having that name value that for the Conjuring as a 9-movie universe, that you can have these spin-offs because people always go back to the core, well, now 4 films, and a lot of it is down to Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga. From a performance standpoint, they've at times had to be polite, a mixed bag to work with in terms of story and dialogue, but they always deliver and deliver big. And that is, again, no exception here with The Conjuring Last Rites. In some ways, Last Rites, it's the perfect encapsulation of the entire Conjuring franchise. I mean, there's some great bits, some not so great bits. It's best when subtle and minimalistic, and at its worst when it falls back on lazy tropes and an overuse of CGI, and all held together marvelously by its central couple. So, does that make Last Rites the perfect send-off? I guess in some ways it does. It wasn't perfect. It struggled in places, but that's been the story with the wider Conjuring franchise. So in that regard, it kind of fits the bill, I guess, and nicely sums up the franchise. I don't know. I don't know if I've come off a little harsh here as well. And if I have, that wasn't the intention. And to clarify, there is a lot to enjoy here. There's a lot I enjoyed about Last Rites. There's a lot to enjoy, especially for those who've been ride or die with the whole Conjuring stuff since back in 2013, like yours truly. So, let's get to the good stuff, I guess, the meaty stuff, the ratings, a score. For me, it is a 6 out of 10. It's a 3 out of 5. A lot of strong potential, a lot of good things, some great performances across the board, some nice nods for franchise fans, but certainly there are points that the ball was definitely dropped here. Now, looking forward, do I really feel that this is it for The Conjuring? I mean, there's certainly several ways that things could go from here should the powers that be wish to carry on. It's all I'm going to say. By the time Last Rites comes to an end, if decision makers wanted to carry on the franchise, there's definitely ways to do that. And probably most telling as well is the simple fact that the 9 movies so far, including Last Rites' opening weekend, have brought in nearly $2.5 billion. It's a lot of change, and that's from a combined budget of just over $260 million, which is a major reason, of course, why Hollywood so often returns to the well with horror, because it's fairly low budget. It can get by on a modest budget, a low-risk budget, and where even a so-so box office return can mean a solid profit can be easily achieved. So do I think that's it for The Conjuring? I absolutely do not. But sometimes it's best to just walk away. And for me, despite being a fairly big fan of the series so far, hey, even The Nun, remember, I'd be perfectly fine with never seeing another Conjuring movie in my life. And so, with that, this has been What Culture Horror. I've been Andrew Pollard. Let us know in the comments if you've seen Last Rites, what you thought of it, or if you're planning to check it out this week or at some point during its theatrical run. So with that said, be safe, be well, and I will catch you down the road.